All right, garage is restored and we are back working again. Everything is painted and cleaned up and back to where it was before. So I've got a couple of things I've been media blasting in my little blaster and shooting with epoxy primer. I've got the rest of the rust cleaned off and epoxied on the body. Chassis back from powder coating and reassembled. I'm obviously got it all wrapped up here. Keep it clean and protected. And now we are working on panel fitment. So starting back here in the trunk, I'm still waiting for one fender to come back from blasting. So I've got the alignment the holes drilled, the original ones that they drilled in here for the alignment were off a little bit. So they think they tried to align it the best they could without cutting the edges down. So obviously I am going beyond what they did. So using the big kids block here, this little piece to mark, get all my gaps consistent. And now I'm just marked out and trimming these edges. So what you do is go through here and split the seam and cut it all down to where it needs to be, and then come back and stitch weld it back up, grind it down, and make it perfect. So the gap should be good all the way around. So I got a couple of holes here marked out that I'm gonna fill in. I'm likely gonna do just the license plate, the lock, and do the V that's typically on the front of the hood, put it on the back here because I like that look. So got a couple of small edges cleaned up here, a couple of little spots here and there that needed to be adjusted. But back making progress. And after I get the fender back from blasting and epoxy, then I can start on the rest of this stuff and start on the doors and work my way forward. All right, we're back welding, working on the gaps still. So I've got this one ground down, welded, and cleaned up. I've got a couple other spots shaved. I've got everything aligned. This side here was pretty tight. So what I ended up doing was using the big kid marker over there, inscribing the metal. And then what I did was lay a tape line, masking tape line, about a millimeter, half a millimeter inside. So I cut it a little bit proud. And what I'm gonna do, what I've done here is I fill it, the weld fill comes out a little bit, and that gives me a little bit of buffer room to shape that corner so I don't end up cutting through and separating again and go through the weld. If I cut it just perfectly, then actually I did that on the other side and I had to come back and redo it. So this gives me a little bit of buffer room to roll the weld and build that edge and get it nice and straight and clean. So we're just slowly tacking as I go. I'm using the compressor air to cool the welds to keep the heat out of the panel. If it does heat up and warp a little bit, I can always get in and hammer and dolly this back. But so far, no distortion. I've got a couple of holes welded up over there, ground down, so those are ready to go. But yeah, progress. Welding, haven't caught anything on fire yet, so so far so good. Trunk edge update here. Got to still sand on the inside a little bit more grinding, but just about done. Still working on panel gaps here. I got the doors adjusted. Pretty happy with where they're ending up. Got some trimming obviously to do. Working on the front sheet metal. It's a huge pain in the butt. Everything is basically built off of that core support, and this core support is custom. So a lot of shimming, a lot of adjusting. I'm working on, yesterday I spent a bunch of hours fixing the, these are the Ring Brothers hood hinges, nice units. except when I put a nut cert here, what happens was this fender wasn't strong enough to support it, and it actually wrinkled on both sides. So I had to pull the whole thing apart, and what I ended up doing was taking a angle iron piece here and welding it in, and then put the nut certs in, and I made sure it was long enough. So these are where the screw heads come through, so it supports the weight on the corners, plus it distributes the load a lot better. So that ends up working really well. And then I drilled a couple holes here for my zip ties to run the electrical lines. So I'm going to be calling Ring Brothers on Monday and tell them that they need to sell these with a machined block similar to what they have here. They need a longer one that bolts in from the back to help distribute the load. And that will prevent the fenders here from buckling. All the other designs I've seen are kind of inverted, and the pistons here run the other direction. So these are really nice units, no flex in them, very happy. Does a great job holding the hood up. Just a whole lot of adjustments to get it where it needs to be. And, you know, I'm going for perfection here, so it's getting there. Got my gaps pretty close. This obviously door needs to be trimmed, so the door is going to come off. Other things, after I rebuilt the hinges here, I've got a bunch of you see holes here that I drilled, and in there, those are alignment holes all the way across, so I can easily align everything back up. But pretty happy with where everything is. I've got a little bit of a hammer and dolly work to do on these fenders and a few pieces, but slow progress. Once I get the front sheet metal exactly where I'm happy with everything, then get the gaps where I want it cut and re-welded and fixed. And then put the gaskets in the doors, gaskets in the trunk, make sure all the rubbers and everything is on the hood is latched, put all the latches in, and then it'll be locked down and I can start sanding. I got the front end all aligned where I'm happy with everything. All the panels, happy with the fitment. Hood opens and closes nice and square. I got my brackets I built to clear the radiator up here in, so I've got less flex in my hood. I've got everything where it needs to be. I checked the radiators up front, put them in, make sure I had clearance. A little bit more adjustments, and it was happy. So now hood closes, comes down, I'm good with my gaps. I've got a little bit of massaging on the inside of this fender to play with, but overall we're in good shape. Next thing, I don't know if you'd see it here on the camera, I've outlined some circles where the hood is oil canning, and I'm going to fix this. Basically, I'm going to use instead of a shrink disc, which I have because this is already epoxied, I'm going to try my hand at a MAP gas torch, slowly heat it up, and I'm not getting it really hot, but hot enough to get the metal warm, and then a cold rag should be able to shrink and tighten this whole area up. So I don't have, it's pretty bad oil canning here. It's not as bad on this side, but it should tighten it up, and with any luck, I won't warp the heck out of my hood. So that's next here. I'll see if I can get it where it needs to be. It is hood cooking time. And cold water to shrink. So my slow heating over a wide area didn't go as planned, so had to change it up. Turns out there was a lot more shrinking that needed to happen. So what I'm doing is using the torch, strip that off all the epoxy, obviously. Heat up a spot till it discolors, strike it with hammer and dolly in the center, and then tap around the edges, and it will shrink down on itself. And then I quench it, cool it, and it shrinks and tightens. So now you can see I can push as hard as I can on this section. It's all tight. This tucked in a little bit, but still has a little bit of play in it. So I'll continue the rest of it. And I'm using a straight edge bent across here. It's kind of at an angle, 45. I'm going and making sure this is close. This will just get slightly skim coated. Obviously after we clean it up and re-epoxy it. But yeah, it should be nice and tight so it doesn't flap in the wind. And then obviously I got to come over here and do this side as well. It's not as bad. This one was really bad. You touch it and then it would just wave on you. So cleaning it up, and then we should be in good shape for the hood. All right, all set. No more oil canning anywhere. Everything's nice and tight. Same with over here. Nice and solid. Underside obviously got a little bit of heat, but that's simple to fix. When we pull the hood off, we'll strip that down, epoxy both sides, and then start the bodywork. So worked out pretty well. A lot of heat, a little bit of hammer and dolling, cold rag and some water spray, cold spray. Shrunk it right down and took all the oil canning. It was a big section, so there's a lot of little set pieces. You saw some hammer and dolly marks here. Not too concerned about that. That will very, very thin skim coat of filler, and it'll be good as new. Update on the panel gaps here. We got the door in a really good spot. Got it nice and rounded. Took a fair amount of material off of it here. It was pretty close, but I think we're good there. The bottom over here was hitting. Clean that one up as well. So I think the door is set. Now onto the other side, and that should be my last panel. Passenger side door. I just ripped a big chunk off of it. So now I've got enough space. It's a little bit big, which is exactly where I want it. Let's see what it looks like when it gets ripped. Pretty much a mess. But I'm going to clean that up and then weld her up, grind the welds down, shape it, and make it perfect. Welding it back together. This is where it gets really ugly. Got the gaps all roughed in. All the way down. Kind of hard to do with the camera holding it, but you get the idea. So it's all squared off right now. Now I got to go and round both sides and make it like it didn't even exist before. All right, we got it all in shape. Smooth, all the edges are rounded. The inside looks like it's folded over appropriately. Like it never even got trimmed.